You might be tired of never meeting men who are ready for commitment, or you're wondering how to meet a man who is ready for commitment and how to actually spot him. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the differences between now, soon, and never men, and the exact numbers of each on the marriage market so that you know exactly whom to look for. My name is Malaika Neri. I'm a professional Indian matchmaker. I help you meet attractive, ambitious Indian guys who are ready to get married yesterday inside the Perfect Match program. I've included the link below so that you can learn more about how the Perfect Match program can help you meet a man who's ready for marriage within the next 6 months. In today's video, we're going to talk about the difference between now, soon, and never men. You see, not all men are created equal. Now, we know that, but what does that mean in the marriage market? We are led to believe, especially as Indian women, that at a certain point, everyone is ready to settle down. And back in the day, that was the case. Why? The reason is that women, mothers, grandmothers, and sometimes fathers told their sons, hey, now you're going to get married. Here's the woman you are going to marry. The end. And back then, for men who were not financially independent, either their fathers funded their lifestyles or they had to provide for their family, the marriage was the obvious solution. They said yes, it was an arranged thing, the end. But today, where most of the guys you're meeting are financially independent guys, the situation is very different. We are interacting with men who are dealing with their own lives. They live separately from their parents. Most of them are not necessarily providing for their parents, or they only provide a certain amount of money, but their parents don't live with them. They're not completely financially responsible for their families, and they have independent lives. Therefore, we need a very clear understanding of what these men are looking for, how to identify them, how they see the timeline of their individual lives in order to make an appropriate decision on whether or not to consider them as potential partners for a long-term serious relationship leading to marriage and family. Let's dive in. First, I'm going to talk about now men. If you are ready to get married right now, and by right now, I mean tomorrow, you're ready to go to the city mayor's office, whatever it is, wherever you live, the registrar's office, and sign a marriage certificate, then these are the guys for you. Now, men are only 15% of the dating market, not anymore on average. So if you have 100 guys, all of whom say, hey, I'm interested in meeting you, only 15 of those guys are ready to marry you right now. They're ready to go to the office and sign because they have their lives together, because they know what they're doing, because they're financially stable and feel ready to take on a wife, and because they understand that their lives will be vastly better, their quality of life, their sense of satisfaction, and their general feeling of happiness will increase by taking on a wife. And I'm sorry for using that ancient terminology, but this is how men see it. They see it as a responsibility and a duty, even if they are in love with you. These guys tend to be decisive. They are now men in every area of their life. It has nothing to do with you. They are men who take action. They'll say, I want to do this trip, then they go and book it. If they say, I want to change the job, they will look for another job and then they'll go and apply for it and get it. And the end. They are decisive people, and that is why they see themselves as now men. That is why they are now men. Let's talk about how to spot a now man, especially if you are ready to get engaged within the next 6 months. First of all, a now man will tell you very quickly that he is looking to settle down. I remember meeting a guy who asked me on our third conversation, we hadn't even had a date, we just met at a wedding. Our third conversation ever, he says, do you want kids? And I was so taken aback, but this is classic behavior from a now man. He will not hesitate to ask you the hard questions up front. He is on a mission to settle down, and him asking you these kind of very direct, hard questions is part of him achieving his goal of finding a wife. So if a guy is asking you these direct questions very early on, the first few dates or the first few hours of your conversation, it means that he is a now man. Now, men in general don't mess around. They're direct. They don't play games. And they might even seem very boring precisely because they don't play games, they don't have any drama, and they can even seem uninteresting because they are so straightforward. He will consistently move the relationship forward. He will plan dates. He will pick times to come see you. He will be looking for opportunities to evaluate if you are the wife that he is looking for. He might ask you things like, where do you see your life? How do you see yourself raising kids? What's the role that your career plays in your life? The guy I just told you about who I met at a wedding, he kept asking me, okay, so where do you want to live? Okay, you're in this city now. Do you want to live in that city forever? He wanted to know how I saw my relationship with my family, what made me unhappy, what made me unhappy, what made me happy. So all of this was before our first date. He wanted to get to know me inside out, not because he was interested in me. We had a connection, but because he was interested in marriage and I was a potential wife to fill the box of wife for the marriage that he wanted. So make this difference in your mind. Now men are looking for marriage, not necessarily you when they're just getting to know you. When they're getting to know you, you're like a candidate in a job interview. Maybe you'll pass to the next level, maybe not. But right now, they just want to see, does she have what I'm looking for? He'll also be very specific about the future and making plans for you in it. So this is in the phase of early dating. If you're getting to know a now man, he will say, okay, let's meet at this time at this place. Because he is a now man and he is generally decisive and direct in all aspects of his life. Bear in mind, now men are only 15% of the dating market. So if you don't meet a now man, it's normal, actually. They're less than 15%. So that means 85% of the men on the marriage market are not now men. My student, Minnie, in the Perfect Match program, met and married a now man. Again, one of the few students who did, but she met and married him. He had very little dating experience. He wanted to get married. They met on a dating app on Hinge. And when they met, after a few dates, he's like, I'm looking to get married. Then they went on holiday together to Mexico. She had already planned this trip and he said, why don't I come along? So again, this is a sign of a now man. He will just be direct and say, can I join you? They had a really good trip. And as soon as they got back, they had been dating for like 6 to 8 weeks. He said, will you marry me? That's it. Like no preamble, no big romantic gestures, just a straight question. Let's get married. This seems to work. We did a trip together, an international trip. It went well. Why not? And they're still very happy today living in the United Kingdom. They got married 9 months after he proposed because they were living in a different country from where they got married. But it's just was to show you that meeting an Alman is completely possible if you are ready. So when Minnie joined the Perfect Match program, she said, I'm going to settle this year. That's it. She wasn't like, I need to find the perfect guy. She just said, I'm going to settle down this year. And then she did. She found her guy. She found Sean. And they lived happily ever after. So if you meet a now man, just go with it. They're good men. They make good husbands because they are decisive people. They don't waffle. They're not complicated. They can be a little bit rigid. And this is just the reverse of being a decisive person. I find that case with myself. I'm a very decisive person. I'm trying to be even more decisive and learn how to make decisions even more quickly. But as a result, I find it very difficult to be spontaneous, and I'm not good with random plans or saying yes to things that are outside my carefully planned schedule. This is just a fact of now people, and it's something you want to bear in mind if you're meeting and dating a now man. Most importantly, try not to get into overthinking when you're meeting a now man. Now men are not complicated. That is why they are now men. But if you meet a guy who's a now man and you have never met one before, it can feel like a shock. So you might be going into overthinking, thinking, is he really serious? Is he playing games with me? Is he taking me for a ride? No, he's just being a now man, and that is how they behave. Let's talk about soon men. So where now men wanted to be in a relationship yesterday and will basically be in a serious, committed, long-term relationship ASAP, like any day now. Soon men will be in a committed relationship anytime between 6 months to 18 months from today. They're ready for commitment. They're ready to settle down. They're generally financially stable and they want to have a partner, but they're not ready to get married just yet. These are the kind of guys who are going to want to do things like exclusively date for 6 months to a year. They will want to live together before marriage. They may even want to do tons of activities like traveling together, going on holiday, meeting each other's families, spending time in the city, in the hometown of the partner. before committing to marriage with a capital M. If you meet them, they'll be very straightforward and direct with you. They are commitment-oriented men, but they're not ready for marriage today. And it's not because they're not ready to marry you, but they're not ready for marriage, full stop. So the guy who I was telling you about, who I met at this wedding, he was somewhere between a now and a soon man, because although he knew that he was ready for a partner, he had been engaged before, he really wanted to find the right person for him. When I said, can you imagine being married 6 months from now? That is what I teach my students how to do. He said, "Ooh, that sounds way too soon." But 6 weeks after we met, he was in a committed, serious, long-term relationship with someone who he's still with today. This goes to show you that he was ready for commitment. He just wasn't completely ready for marriage, but he knew he wanted to get married as soon as he felt safe with the right partner. So this is a good example of someone who's somewhere between now and soon. And I think that if the relationship with this woman goes well, they might get married sometime within the next year or two. So maybe he's more of a soon man. But if he'd met a woman who she was ready for marriage, then he would have gone ahead with it. So I called him between now and soon. But there are a lot of men out there who are just soon. They will get married for sure. They are marriage-minded men. They're husband material men, but it's not going to be now, and it's definitely not yesterday. Really good example is a good friend of mine who just got engaged and invited me to her wedding, and her wedding is later this year. She and her partner met 3 years ago. They dated exclusively for a year. After a year of exclusive dating, they moved in together. They lived together for the last 2 years. And after living together and dating for a total of 3 years, they started talking about the next step, moving to a different country together, moving to her home country. And she said, if we're going to live in my home country together, she comes from a conservative Asian country, then I need for us to be married. And that is what led to them getting married. It was very much intentional on her part, saying, I want to make this life move of moving to a different country, and I want to take the step of getting married. It's like a package deal. But otherwise, they would have probably just continued living together for God knows how long. This is a classic soon man. He's a great partner, loyal, faithful, cooking dinner for my friend every night, takes care of himself, good guy, met all her friends, went on holiday with her parents. Really solid partner, but wasn't ready to get married until they had 6 months of a year of discussion. And then together they decided, okay, let's get married. We're going to do this. Classic soon guy, marriage oriented, will behave towards you like your husband, but you won't be able to call him your husband for a while. So although I'm calling soon men between 6 to 18 months, they'll commit. You have to drive that conversation forward. They're not going to wake up one day and say, hey, let me propose to you. You have to actually have that conversation with them. Soon men are about 35% of the marriage market. Again, far from the majority. The reason that they're not now men, that they don't want to get married right now, is because they might have some inhibitions. Either they need to get to know you, they're slow to warm up, they need to build that trust with you. They might be looking to make some changes in their career or their job. So this happened to me with the guy I dated. Everything was going well. We dated for a year, then we lived together for a year. But still, he wasn't ready for marriage because he was like, I need to stabilize my career. And he needed a job in which he felt stable, in a location in which he felt stable, in a company in which he felt like he could grow. So he wasn't ready for marriage yet. Soon men will often want to date, have open dating, not exclusive dating for a couple of months before committing to an exclusive relationship. This is really normal, and they see it as part of the way they operate. My student Jenny dated and is with a soon man. So they met about a year ago, I think on a dating app. And then one day she was sick and he was like, I'll come over and I'll cook you dinner. And that's when she realized this guy really cares about me. They began dating. So about 6 months after they met, they began dating. 6 months later, they were really serious. They started taking holidays together. And now I think it's been a little over 8 months of dating. And now they're starting to talk about what the future together could look like, where they want to live, what kind of city, what kind of lifestyle. Classic example of a soon guy. He gets her roses on Valentine's Day. He cooks her dinner. He goes on holiday with her. He's met her parents. He is the number one friend and lover in her life, but he's not her husband. And that's fine for her. She's not ready to sign the marriage certificate today, but she's very happy to let the relationship evolve on its own timeline because they both know that they want to be with each other and they found the right person for them. Classic example of a soon man. So if you know, okay, today I'm 27 or today I'm 32 or today I'm 45, but I want to get married but still date the guy for a bit before, then a soon guy is your absolute best option. He is a commitment minded guy. He's often rarely single. Soon men tend to go from one serious monogamous relationship to another until they find a woman that says, okay, you need to give me a ring, otherwise get out. And then they will marry her. So soon men are very often in a relationship when you meet them, or they just recently out of a relationship, and that's when you grab them. He will always say yes to plans. He will make plans with you as well. He is not going to be as insistent as a now man simply because he's got other stuff going on in his life, still sorting out his career, family stuff. Who even knows? The point is not to be freaked out if he doesn't lead with, hey, I really want to marry you. Like, you're the woman for me. It doesn't mean he won't marry you ever. It just means he's not going to marry you yesterday. But he will marry. And if you're the right woman for him, he will marry you. Don't try to convince him to commit, but be clear on your intentions. And if you want a proposal ASAP, don't try to convert him to a now man. Just be clear on your intentions and say, I'm going to also date other guys while I date you. And whoever gives me a ring first, who I also feel good with, is going to get a yes from me. So you're not going to convert a soon man to a now man, but you could amp up the fire a little bit. And a soon man can decide to become a now man of his own volition. Let's finally talk about never men. So never men, 50% of the dating market, the marriage market, 50%, half of all the guys you're going to meet, including men who tell you they want to get married, are never men. This means that they're never going to marry. They might have long-term serious relationships. They might even live with a woman. They might even have a child with a woman. That does not mean they're going to marry. And you have to get this idea into your head. You're not going to suddenly make a never man into a now man. So I have a friend in my life who is a never man, and he's had two serious long-term relationships. He is an amazing friend. He has probably been a good partner. I didn't know him then. And he's very reliable. But he has told me, I'm not interested in marriage right now. That could change if he decides that he wants to change. He wants something different from his life. But I am not going to be a random variable who suddenly convinces him to want marriage. The thing about never men is that they don't tell you I'm a never man. They might not even know. These guys are the people who walk into shops to browse. They might not even be able to afford the clothes. Maybe they have maxed out their credit card for the month. Maybe they are not looking for anything. Maybe they'll say things like, I'll know it when I see it, or maybe, or it's so hard to know what you want. There's a guy like this who I know. I asked him, what are you looking for? Are you looking for something serious? Would you like to settle down? He's like, yeah, it just has to click. It depends on the vibe. These are all classic things that a never man will say because he doesn't know. And the fact that he doesn't know tells you that he's a never man because now and soon men know what they're looking for. And as soon as they find it, they're like, good, done. Men are very simple. And if dating is not simple for them, it means it might be a never man. He will avoid talking about commitment with you. So if you ever bring up long-term plans or say, hey, like 6 months from now, I want to do this. Do you want to do it with me? They'll say like, no, I don't know. I can't plan my life that far ahead. I'm not sure. I'll have to see. I'll let you know. All avoidance tactics because they are never men. He'll be inconsistent. So this is a really good example of my friend. Sometimes he'll respond to my text messages. Sometimes he won't. And we're really good friends. So I know that if I have a difficulty, he'll be there for me, but he's inconsistent. And that is classic of a never man. He's not that kind of person who, if I want to go grab coffee, I'll call him and say, hey, you available for a coffee? Like, no, that's when you need a now man. A now man will either immediately respond and say, I'm not available right now, or he'll say, I can meet you there in 10 minutes. That's a now guy. Often soon men do this too. Never men, sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're hot, sometimes they're cold. Classic never men. Don't take offense. It's not about you. It also could be that never men are always figuring things out. Their lives seem stable, and yet there are so many question marks because they like that inconsistency. They're never guys. Uh, I have dated a never man while I was traveling. Lovely man, one of the best relationships of my life because he taught me so much. He was a lot older than me. And so he traveled a lot, a lot, a lot. And we really enjoyed each other's companies, talked a lot. I learned so much from him. But he had been single almost his entire life, except for one relationship of 6 years. He traveled constantly. He was a nomad. And the more I talked to him, the more I realized he had no intention of settling down ever. He would talk about it as though the idea sounded very nice. And in moments where I felt very close to him, I thought, oh, wow, maybe he'd want to settle down with me. But no, that was just fantasy on my part. He actually had no intention of settling down because he loved his freedom too much. And the compromises that are required in order to settle down didn't hold much interest for him. So again, don't try to convert a soon man into a now man or a never man into a soon man. Like, not going to happen. That guy might have a wake up call of his own one day if he does, cool. But if not, you move on. Rotational dating, my friends. Make sure you're meeting a lot of guys so that you always have options. So, from the guy who I met who was a never man, I was like, it was great knowing you, but my travels are over. Goodbye. He wrote me a few emails for a month or two, and then that was it. Never heard from him again. Classic never man behavior. So, my lovely ladies, remember that a guy being now, never, or soon is not about you. It's about him, his own relationship with himself, his own life story. Your goal is to find yourself a husband. Your husband is either going to be a now man or a soon man. And your husband is only going to be one of that 50% of the marriage market, not more than that. You are not different than the statistics of how human beings operate. So if you're going out looking for a potential partner, decide your timeline first and then look for a partner. So if your timeline is anytime within the next 6 months, you need to look for a now man who's also looking for a now woman. If your timeline is a little bit longer, anywhere between 6 months to 18 months, and I would even say give yourself a buffer of a year or two because you just like stuff can come up. Maybe there's a lockdown, maybe there's a family crisis, maybe work is really intense and you don't have time to plan a wedding. Choose the kind of partner who matches the vision that you have for your life. Don't choose a guy and try to make him match that vision. Sort out your vision first, which I teach you how to do in the Perfect Match program. We get really clear on your lifestyle, values, and mindset and how you see your life. And then, and only then, we find a partner who matches what you want for your life so that both of you come together easily and naturally because both of you are looking for each other. This is what we want, and that is why it is simple. That is why my students get commitment within 6 months. So if that is you, you are ready to settle down, you're ready to get the commitment that you want and deserve, I would invite you to join the Perfect Match program, my signature 6 month program to help you meet a man you can imagine marrying, find the love and commitment you deserve, and start your happily ever after marriage, family, all the good stuff with this guy. Click the link below to learn more about the Perfect Match program or go to advancedrelationshipskills.com/PM. My name is Malaika Neri. I'm a professional Indian matchmaker helping you meet the right guy for marriage and family. Thank you so much for watching this video. I look forward to welcoming you into the Perfect Match program whenever you're ready. Make sure that you click the link to subscribe so you can always catch every single video that I publish to help you find the right person for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.